You are listening to Season 2 of The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, the short and often daily podcast in which I chronicle my life and attempt to be a writer by writing daily. Sometimes.
Hello, today is Monday the 12th of May 2025 and you're listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, and I've kind of broken one of my fundamental rules with this podcast, because my rule is basically I try and record it during the 24-hour period that is, well, in this case the 12th of May in the United Kingdom, because that's where I'm from and that's where the podcast goes out. But unfortunately I've had to break that rule today because I really wanted to do a podcast. However, I'm at my friend's graduation ceremony. Now, I knew there was a ceremony on Saturday. I knew there was one this morning, but bless her, she'd failed to mention that there was the one where she actually gets her gets her name called out and she gets presented with the paperwork and everything, her certificate. That was at 2:00 this afternoon, and I only found out at about 12:30 that was happening, and she'd like me to attend that one as well. Of course I did. What it has meant is that I was going to record the podcast during that time, and I just didn't have the time. But it was a really, really moving ceremony, and there was one bit where, in the first ceremony today actually, there was a doctor, and I can't remember her name. I did note it down, but I'm too tired to go into the notes on my phone. And basically she gave the main speech in the ceremony, and she basically stood up and said, talked a bit about herself, and she said, I'm this, I've done this, I'm the head of this bit, I do this, I'm the head of that. I was a student here as an immigrant, and as soon as she said she was an immigrant, there was like a couple of claps. It's making me emotional just thinking about it. A couple of claps, and then a couple more claps, and then more people joined in and more people joined in. It just built into this emotional crescendo of love and respect. And it sounds so hippyish when I say it like that, but it was absolutely one of the most moving things I've ever seen. And it just goes to show that everybody in that room understands the value that immigrants add to America. And although the government don't see that and are trying to paint them as the enemy, they are completely wrong. And what happened today was just absolutely beautiful, and I will probably remember it for a very long time. It was just an incredibly good. So that was the first ceremony, and then we had about 2 hours before we had to get back for the next one, which I didn't know about. So her bestie looked after me, and her dad went back to her student accommodation to have a sleep between the two, and then me and her bestie basically went and had something to eat, and we had a really nice Vietnamese meal. It was just all rather pleasant. I did enjoy it, and then after that we had to go and get her father. Unfortunately, he had the only spare key to the student accommodation that I've just mentioned a name, shouldn't have done that, never mind, you don't know the surname. It was to get into her accommodation. He had the only spare key. So we had to go to the desk and explain, look, there's a chap up in the room we need to get hold of, so we need to get him back to this ceremony. He's got the spare key, we can't get into it. He doesn't speak a word of English, so one of us, well, preferably her friend, because he's also a Mandarin speaker, her bestie, needs to go up and explain this. And he was like, can't really do that. And he watched us trying to phone the room and trying to phone my friend to and he eventually relented and walked us up there, and we banged on the door and woke him up and got to the ceremony on time. So that was good. That was really interesting. So now she's got faculty stuff, she's got to meet with her professor and do other bits and pieces, but we are supposed to be meeting for a meal in about 3 hours time. So I'm getting, for the first time I've tried a different company other than Uber. I've tried something called Lyft, Lyft, and they were literally about 2 minutes away from collecting me when, for whatever reason, the driver ditched my ride, and now suddenly I'm having to wait another. So I've been waiting about 20 minutes for this Lyft, and it's the first time I've used Lyft rather than Uber. So I have to say, I will not be using Lyft again in a hurry. I would much rather use Uber, because so far they've given me accurate ETAs and the driver has always attended. Now, it might purely be that when they took on the original booking. They didn't realise it was quite close to this ceremony, and there was a lot of people at first. It has calmed down a bit now, so in the last sort of 20 minutes or so, the number of people milling about the area has reduced to a sensible level, so that's good. I'm trying to think what else I can say really to get it up to the correct time. So I'm the other thing is my flight tomorrow. I'm confirmed on it. So when you're on standby, which is basically what I'm on, it's a different kind of standby because I'm using a business class ticket, but it's still effectively standby. And so up until today, I was on effectively a waiting list to be accepted to be on the flight. And I was telling my friend this, and I said, "Oh, I'm still only awaiting." And I went to show her, and I logged in, and they'd confirmed my seat. So that's brilliant. I may not get business class. It doesn't look like there's many business class tickets left, but I'll live with that. I am the only person on standby, so if there's one business class seat remaining, I should get it. And do you know what? If I don't, even if I get World Traveller down the back of the aircraft, I still get to go home at the right time, because the other option was that I might have to stay another 24 hours. I mean, I'm not due back at work till the 19th, so that would have been annoying rather than a problem. But there we go. Right, so this is going to hit the podosphere technically on the 13th, certainly in UK time, not in the time of the country I'm recording it, and I hasten to add, but in UK time it will technically be the 13th, so apologies for that, but I'm still going to call it the podcast for the 12th. So that's me done. I'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully I might have done a little bit of writing before the podcast tomorrow. We shall see how it goes. Take care. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer. For more information about what I'm writing, go to linktr.ee/Richard Writes, capital R, capital W, where you can find details of my website and social media. I may see you there.